Hello, welcome back to another episode of John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. Just for a few minutes, I'd like to talk a little bit about lessons learned. So some people may actually call it after action review. Other people may call it hot wash. There's a variety of different terms that you can use. But at the end of the day, what occurs is that after a major event or minor event, in some frequency, you should pause. In other words, take a break and reflect on what has happened or not happened. The purpose of this is to learn from either our successes so that we can maximize them the next time around, or learn from our less than optimal results, sometimes called failure, sometimes called opportunities, whatever terminology you want to use. But we definitely want to minimize those the next time that we do this. So you might have noticed I said the next time. Now, doing the lessons learned is not necessarily going to help you on the project or the work or the phase that you just completed. That's kind of like done. It's water over the bridge, spilt milk, move forward. We just kind of move on. Okay, but what you do have to realize is that more than likely, what's going to happen is that same scenario is going to come back up, and so you do need to be prepared for the next time. So that's why it's always a good habit to do lessons learned. Since I mentioned habit, I do mean habit for both the organization as well as the individual. So again, there's always a kind of a common thread whenever I'm doing these series that whatever you can do in a corporate environment is what you can do in your personal life just as well. So just like I would encourage organizations to do lessons learned, I would encourage individuals to also take a few minutes, reflect on what they have done, and see where the areas of improvement are, eh, and see where the areas of successes are. Again, you want to minimize one and maximize the other on that side. So there's just a few points I do want to make, as we kind of meander down this path of lessons learned. The first one, oh, we've already talked about what is lessons learned, so that's good. Essentially at the end of the day, is just taking a few minutes and reflecting on what has just happened so that the next time that this scenario occurs, we can do better on it. So we're really looking at it from continuous improvement. That is what we are all about. Is continuously improving. So even if we did an awesome job, can we make the standard just a little bit higher and do better the next time? When should you do it? So there is a case where you can't do it too often. Okay, that's actually a good question. So there's actually a lot of different scenarios that can go on. Sometimes I've seen organizations or myself just do it on a daily basis, meaning at the end of the day, either personally or organizationally, and just take a few minutes and understand what has happened. Sometimes you'll do it, after a phase or major accomplishment has occurred or after an activity. The one thing I do encourage organizations to not do is to necessarily wait until the very end of a very, very long project in order to do the after action review or to do the lessons learned. Okay. Remember, after action review and lessons learned, are synonymous. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by a long project? Say that you have a project that takes 9 months. Say that you are doing a play, at a house of worship, and it's a 9 month endeavor. Something of that nature. I wouldn't necessarily wait until the very, very end to do the lessons learned. I would plan strategic points throughout that project to where you can stop, pause, and make sure that you are still on the right track, on those areas. In other words, try to keep it as the increments as small as possible because you want to improve as you go through the project on those areas. Who should be involved? The Normally it should. So this is just my thoughts. Okay, I prefer the lessons learned to be done by the individuals who are actually doing the work. Okay. So that it's really that development team, on those areas. Now, the question may be, what are the inputs? So you can get inputs from a variety of different areas, say from your customers. If you're doing a class, you might have course evaluations. If you're customer facing on a project or something of that nature, you may ask the customer how you're doing and things of that nature, and you would ingest those as inputs. You may even want to ask your suppliers, how is everything actually going? In other words, do a 360 and get the thoughts, in place. But the actual conducting of the lessons learned is probably, in my mind, better suited by the individuals who have to do the work. So you may ask, why do I insist on that? Because they're really the ones who are going to be able to do something with it, at the end of the day, on those areas. They are also the ones who get to choose whether they do anything with the feedback or not. So that's both organizationally as well as personally. So, on a personal basis, meaning you yourself, you may ask for feedback from somebody. You are not obligated to do anything with the feedback. You are only obligated to receive the feedback. Sometimes the appropriate response is just thank you. Now, if I'm the one that's providing the feedback, it is not my responsibility to ensure that the person actually does it. As the provider of the feedback, I'm only responsible for providing the feedback. The receiver is responsible for doing something with it or not doing something with it. It's completely up to their choice on that regards. Okay, so that happens both on a personal basis as well as a professional setting or in an organization.
This is just a real quick interruption here. I know that you're enjoying yourself on that fascinating show within the world of managing projects, but just wanted to let you know that we do have books on sale, and this particular one is called The Project Manager's Quick Start Guide. I think it is an outstanding read. Why? Because, well, I wrote it. But on a serious note, it is really meant for those who are brand new in the world of managing projects, or let's say that you're mentoring a young individual, a young go-getter, and they have the very, very first project and you want to set them up for success. This is the book for you. Down in the description notes, you can go ahead and order at your will. Thank you. Have an awesome day.
What are some different formats that you can use? You know what? If you go on the internet, you can find like lots of different ones. Within some nonprofit organizations, such as the Scouts, we use start, stop, continue. Meaning things that we want to start doing, things that we want to stop doing, and things that we want to continue. Start, stop, continue. Some people use roses and thorns. That's perfectly fine. One of my favorite ones is actually sustain, improve. In other words, what are some action items that we are going to sustain? In other words, continue doing, and what are some areas of improvement that we can work on, on those pieces. Uh, so as far as the format, again, to me, it doesn't really, matter as long as you just pick one and just kind of move forward. And if people just kind of understand the gist. Now, during the lessons learned, what I would do is, to the extent possible, try to keep people on track. So let's assume that we're doing sustain, improve. We're going to use that as a format. I would give a few minutes for individuals to provide items that we will sustain, and then after a reasonable amount of time, appropriate amount of time, cease work on that. And then I would ask for areas that we can improve. Okay. So I would actually try to kind of separate them out. And the reason why is so that the threads don't become too intertwined, on those areas. So that's just why. That's somewhat of a personal preference, but I've just found that it helps to keep, well, first off, it helps to keep the emotions down. That's the first issue. But then it helps kind of stay on track on what we're actually trying to do and kind of give like little succinct items that you can choose to do something with or choose not to do something with, on those pieces on that side. Sometimes people ask, who should facilitate? Normally, the facilitator is going to be the team lead, who's ever responsible for the team to do it, on those areas. That's normal, and that's probably about 95% of the time. Now, there might be a case where the project was less than optimal, and the actual issue might have been the team lead in and of itself, or it's just a very large project, in those areas. And sometimes it's helpful to bring in a third party to facilitate the meeting. That is sometimes really helpful. Again, if it's a project that's become emotionally strong, in those areas, you need to kind of separate out the individuals, so forth, so that you can actually do something with it, on those areas. Okay, so we've kind of covered quite a bit of ground here. We talked about what lessons learned is. We talked about when one should do it. We talked about some of the formats, different formats that can be used. Who should be involved? Who should facilitate? One last item I do want to mention, and this is just a little bit of I guess you can say a pet peeve of mine, but I would try to frame the lessons learned to be as quantitative as possible versus qualitative. The reason why I mentioned that is sometimes teams will come together and they'll just kind of high five themselves and say, "Yeah, we did a great job. We did an awesome job." I get the emotions part, and I'm not saying that you should not, celebrate. I'm not saying that you shouldn't celebrate. Okay, on those areas. But what I am saying is, did you actually meet the intended results that you had wanted to achieve in the first place? Wow, I just said a lot in there. First off, what I said implicitly was that before you even began the project, did you lay out the goals and expectations quantitatively that you expected to achieve? So, for example, let's say that you are a salesperson and you're making a sales call. You felt that the call went awesome. Your verbiage was great, yada, yada, yada. Your customer loved you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, at the end of the day, really the only thing that the salesperson is held accountable for is, was there a sale, yes or no? That is quantitative. So I'm not saying necessarily to dismiss the idea that you felt good. I'm not saying dismiss that, but you do have to get down to brass tacks of, did you actually achieve the results that you were looking for? If you did not achieve those results that you were looking for, if you didn't achieve them, ask why. In a future sessions, I'll kind of go through some of the quality tools that can help you to discern what some of the root issues, as you're going through it. Now, just because you notice I kind of start off on the negative side, but let's say that the sales call went awesome, and let's assume that you actually did make the sale. Ask yourself, why did that occur? So you do want to make sure that you understand why, whether it was a positive or negative, on those side. All right. So that kind of sums up today's session, which was just basically on lessons learned. If you like this session, please, well, first off, please subscribe. Our staff would appreciate it, and I would appreciate it as well. And be sure to hit the like button below. If there's any thoughts, questions, or concerns, please just reach out. As well, I try to be as readily available as possible. Thank you and have an awesome day.